All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I can just have your attention real quick. If you have an empty chair next to you, and you could scoot over or whatever, just allow yourself to be moved if necessary or whatever. But we've got a lot of people still in line waiting to come in. We're going to start in a minute or two. Appreciate you all being here. All right, we still have people coming in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. It's a little after 7, and we want to run this meeting as quickly as possible, if that's even possible. My name's Kelly Moore. My name's Kelly Moore, and I'm the president of the North Braintree Civic Association. And on behalf of the Civic Association, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you tonight to hear this important subject that we're talking about, which is the planned development of ZOM over behind the South Shore Plaza, adjacent to Flaherty School. Our agenda tonight, we're going to first hear from the mayor. He's taking time out of another engagement to be here with us and share a few thoughts about this project and about development, overall development in town. Then we'll hear from Liz Page, the Vice President of the Civic Association. Then I'll share a few facts about the project and what's happening with the project. Justine Huang will be talking about a neighbor's perspective. Her house is immediately next to Flaherty School, right next to it, so it's going to be interesting. Steve Sasha is going to give us an overview about PUD, specifically RG PUD. That's the name of this PUD, and that's a zoning term. Jen Wadlin is going to talk about, speaking of Jen, Jen, the meeting started, I just want you to know. Jen Wadlin is the chairperson of the Master Plan Committee, and we'll be talking about the vision statement and how does this project jive with what's happening there, and then I'll have a few closing comments. A couple business items. We have registration forms should anyone want to join the MBCA. We are going to be in for a long fight on this project, so any donations will be welcome. We also have a letter that you can write to your elected officials there in the back table or the front table. So grab one of these. You have the addresses of where these can be sent, and let your sentiments be known. There's a lot of work that went into this evening tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank BCAM for helping us with this helping us with our presentation this evening. Also, a lot of work went into getting the word out. Some of you have seen these. These look familiar. I didn't pick out the colors, just so you know. There are many people who pass these out. We passed out almost 2,000 flyers to get everybody here. So this is a really important evening for everyone. At this point, I'd like to introduce the mayor, Charles Koukouris, who's going to share a few thoughts with us. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you to the North Braintree Civic Association. This is quite a crowd. Normally, the meetings are held in the library, so congratulations on such a large crowd. Can everyone hear me in the back? All right. I'll speak louder. Maybe, well, are you recording this? Okay. All right. I just wanted to say that, you know, we've worked really hard to make our way through COVID, and there's a lot of great projects that we have going on right now throughout the town. We have life science. We have a couple of different locations in which we've got life science that we're working on. We have some great redevelopment. We have a brand new South Middle School. So we have many great things happening. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we're in the process of doing our master plan, which was really generated by a large group of Braintree residents coming to a meeting one night and demanding that we do a master plan and not approve a comprehensive rezone that would really change the look of our community. And this particular project that you folks are here on tonight is unfortunately in a place that is probably not the best place for it. It's an extreme amount of density. It's very concerning to me, and I really, just want you to know that this isn't something that I support as mayor. I think that there's plenty of good redevelopment. I think there's plenty of good redevelopment in our town, and I think that, for me, it's important to have input from you, and there's a number of projects that we have going on right now that are really good projects that are going to improve Braintree. I think infrastructure-wise, this particular project will have some really significant impacts on our water and sewer, on our roads. One of the things that over the years that the plaza has always contended is that they do not create morning commute, and this project goes against that. I will continue to work with the South Shore Plaza. The South Shore Plaza needs to be redeveloped. We're talking about the South Shore Plaza, not properties that they've tried to do one-offs with. And I think that it's important to have a comprehensive plan on the plaza itself. And I think that this particular project, although has been compared in many ways to other redevelopments in other communities, it's not the same. It's two separate projects. It would be separate from the plaza, and it wouldn't be owned by the plaza if approved. So once again, in reviewing all the facts and looking at the fact that our zoning doesn't allow this much density, and even in variances that have been given on many different projects over the years, this one would really create a very, very large change in what the town of Braintree has ultimately approved in the past and has for zoning. So I just wanted to give you my 2 cents on where I stand in regards to this project, but also want to talk about the great redevelopment that is going on in the town of Braintree. There are good things happening right now, and I thought that was my phone. But there are really good things happening in town right now, so don't be discouraged. I'm glad everybody came out tonight. I'm glad that everybody's participating in government. And essentially the process, I'm sure that you'll hear the process from the members of the North Braintree Civic Association, how a plan unit development is processed and what the processes are. You know, in talking with my staff, we do not see this as favorable to the town. So as you go to meetings, you will see that reflected in comments coming from my staff members. So I thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and I appreciate everyone coming out, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming out and sharing your thoughts about this project. This project evokes a lot of emotion on both sides. For some odd reason, this has been one of those subjects of discussion where a line has been drawn. Now, whether you're for the project or against the project tonight, let's remember one thing. We're all from Braintree, and that matters. We have some members of our Braintree leadership here. We have the president or chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Stephen Carl. You can't hide, sir. You're right there. I see you. We have Aaron Joyce, who is the chairperson of the Planning Board. Aaron, where are you? You're here. We have Joe Reynolds, who is District 2 Town Councilor, here tonight. Any other dignitaries? Stephen O'Brien is here. Where are you, Steve? Aha, Stephen O'Brien, District 5, 4, 3, 4. Thank you. Appreciate that. I can't see him, but I can see you. And Liz Maglio. Hi, Liz. How are you? Good to see you. District 3. One of these days, I'll understand where everybody's from. Let's give our representatives a round of applause. The Civic Association's been around for a long time. I joined probably about, I can't remember, but with me at the same time, we were in a fight, ironically, at the South Shore Plaza with the Lakeside Gate. You guys remember that gate being open? Some of you wish it were, so you can get there faster, but that's okay. We did then. We got the gate closed. One of the soldiers right next to me is a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Page. She is the face of the North Braintree Civic Association, and she's kind of amazing, and she's got a few words to share with you right now.
Hi. Wow. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Liz Page, the Vice President of the North Braintree Civic Association, and I do want to thank you all again for coming out tonight. Braintree residents really turn out when they want to be heard, and they also turn out when they feel that their voices are not being listened to, or they also turn out when they feel that their neighborhood or their town is being threatened. Tonight, we hope to present the facts about this monster proposal, which sits at the edge of the South Shore Plaza parking lot by the Flaherty School and in our neighborhood. Are you aware that the developer wants 30 exemptions from our zoning bylaws? We will discuss this tonight. These are the same zoning bylaws that we must abide by. These bylaws protect the residents as well as the businesses, and we all need standards and laws to live in a safe and healthy environment. Now, there are some who may think that this is a done deal. Well, it is not. There is a process of recommendations and approvals, And this can only happen if our town council and our planning board allow it to happen. The planning board will make a positive or a negative recommendation to our town council, and then the developer will need the town council to approve by a simple majority the proposal for the PUD overlay zone along with 30 exemptions. These exemptions are among the most important zoning bylaws that protect our town. So this is big. It's really big. And we need our elected officials to deny this proposal and protect the residents of this neighborhood. We, the residents of this neighborhood, believe that it is reasonable to want and expect all the same protections that all of Braintree's residents expect. This proposal is not even remotely compatible with the adjacent neighborhood and the Flaherty School. And the actual plaza itself will remain the same. The crime will continue. So I hope that tonight we will learn the facts and understand that if one neighborhood is expendable, then all of our neighborhoods are expendable. We want to protect our neighborhood, and we want to protect all of Braintree's neighborhoods. So thank you very much.
She is awesome. Thanks, Liz. Speaking of awesome, we have some amazing ladies in the back who are checking people in. If you haven't checked in, please do so. We'd like to make sure you are known to be here. You have your email address so we can give you an update. Carol Ann Ricardo, we've got Maria Bonfiglione, and there's no N in there, Bonfiglio, something like that. And we've got my lovely wife, Rochelle, who's back there somewhere as well behind the crowd. We're going to talk now. Hey, there's the mayor. Liz did her thing. Let's talk about the project and what this is. So the project is known as a residence on Granite. Simon Properties, the plaza owner, is selling almost 9 acres to Zom Living, thank you, Steve. Zom Living, which is where they are going to be placing this development. 2 minimum 5-story buildings behind the South Shore Plaza, adjacent about 250 feet from the Flaherty School, 300 feet. The project will have 495 units. Some 55 plus or senior, or what do they call it? Active living. So you guys are active because you're here tonight, so you qualify. It's about a $150 million development. Zom filed his proposal with the town mid-January and hopes to begin construction next year. So here are what the proponents are saying. Braintree needs more housing to be economically competitive. Braintree is financially desperate and needs additional tax dollars wherever we can find them. Braintree needs more development to, quote-unquote, save the schools. Braintree needs more housing units for those who want to work in town. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never lived in the same town in which I worked. I had to drive to get to work. The project is within the plaza boundaries, which is huge anyway, so what does that matter? No one's going to notice. The traffic will barely affect Braintree. They'll just get off the expressway, go home, and then in the morning, get back on the expressway and go to work. But not in Braintree, apparently. Or, this is a done deal already. We don't even need to talk about it. It's already a fait accompli. And the old favorite, it's behind the plaza. no one will see it anyway. However, who will? All y'all. So let's talk about some of the project realities. This is the largest housing project ever to be proposed in Braintree. The largest. 495 units on an area zoned for 65. The developer suggests the project will bring in $800,000 in taxes and an additional monetary amount of about $4 million. However, I think if you do the math, ultimately this project will cost the town more than it makes. Talk about infrastructure, you talk about needs, you talk about crime, you talk about police, you talk about fire. I know those have all been taken into account in that $800 million number, but you got to sell it somehow. Remember, Braintree is desperate for dollars. The project will stress an already stressed Braintree infrastructure. As a matter of fact, was it today or yesterday, there was a sewerage overflow over on Allen Street? Today? The pumping station there will need to be upgraded. We don't know how much that's going to cost. The schools are already overcrowded. One thing about Flaherty, it's not overcrowded now as much because they moved 5th grade to the middle school. I remember I was in 6th grade and I was still in elementary school, but we won't go there. The schools are already overcrowded, particularly Flaherty School. Listen to this, I didn't know this. They propose, based on the numbers, an additional 27 students will be living within the 495 units. 27. So there are 300 and some odd apartments. They're not inexpensive either. $3,000 for a 2-bedroom, $2,500 for a single bedroom, and I don't know what a studio is. Quite certain I don't want to know that. So the students, $15,000, I think it's a higher number, 16 and change, per student in Braintree to educate our children. 27 times 15 is roughly 400,000. Figure that out. That's a lot. They're requesting more than 30 exemptions from our existing zoning, such as exemptions for lighting. They can put whatever lighting they want there. Exemptions from noise pollution. They're right on the reservoir, the neighbor's on the other side, and noise carries over water, doesn't it? Billboards, they can even put a gas station there. They are exempt from a gas station. They'll house 1,000 plus or minus new residents, approximately 250 feet from Flaherty School. Now, I've talked to a lot of mothers about this. We're going to hear from one in a moment. But having that many residents that close to 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders, kindergartens, who knows? That's not a scare tactic, it's just kind of reality. Additional crime has overflowed into the neighborhood. They've chased active shooters into the neighborhood. The 100-foot buffer strip would be removed, in addition to the 35-foot landscape buffer strip along Lakeside Drive. And speaking of Lakeside Drive we thought ended at the little rotary there. It continues on, as a matter of fact, and that will become part of this project's open space. It's nice to be able to just take a road. This project will add approximately 3,000 vehicle trips. A vehicle trip is when you leave your house to go to Stoppy and come back, that's 2. A vehicle trip also includes those bringing your gifts that you order late at night from Amazon. Just saying, I've done that for my beautiful bride. Vehicle trips, any trip to and from the residence, 3,000. How many of you think Braintree Five Corners needs more traffic? Just saying. So let's talk about the crime. This is a sensitive subject. I've asked the Braintree Police to provide numbers over the last 8 months, since June, 7 months, on the top locations visited by the police. And of course, because of its size and number of people, etc., the plaza is number 1. Police incidents. Then we get into apartment complexes, Braintree Village, Skyline, Jonathan Landing, the Ridge at Blue Hills, and Lennox Farms. In the total for the last 7 months, total incidents, 1185. So you multiply that times 2 if you want to carry it the whole year, but that's not the point. There's going to be 495 units at the residence of Granite. That will inherently bring crime because it just happens. It is what it is. If you just include the apartments, it's 265 police incidents over that time, but also the over 55, it's 417. So we're going to have apartments and the South Shore Plaza. It's a double whammy when it comes to crime. Is the plaza a good neighbor to Braintree? So I pulled the Boston Globe's headlines from 2016. The first one, the most recent, is, you want to live at Greater Boston's biggest mall? This might be your chance. Let's move in. You get the opportunity. Woman drives the SUV, South Shore Plaza increases security, 19-year-old Maynard man indicted for murder, all related to the plaza. More shootings, another shooting. Is the plaza a good neighbor to Braintree? Well, it gives us a lot of money, awesome tax revenue. We can't overlook that. But is the plaza a good neighbor to Braintree? I would suggest Simon Properties, they're still profitable, but not too long ago, their Wallingford, Connecticut mall, they just pulled out of, they just let it go. They stopped paying their mortgage. They let it go. In my opinion, we have to be a good neighbor to them, but what kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? If this were going up across the street from you, how happy would you be? This is not a done deal. This is a problem, a big problem, and we're going to fight it to the very end, whatever ending that is. It could come to an ending sooner than later. But you being here matters. You showing up matters. What you're doing right now matters. Reach out to your town officials. Reach out to your town council. Reach out to the planning board. Reach out to the mayor's office. Let your voice be heard. These buildings behind me are, the one on the left is being proposed, actually under construction, in Quincy Center. It's more than 10 floors. In a project like this, this is the type of building that could actually go in. Braintree has a limit of 4 floors, but a PUD means planned urban development. I call it planned urban destruction. At this point, I'd like to invite Justine Wang, who is going to share a neighbor's perspective.
Thank you, Kelly, to give me this opportunity. Can everybody hear me? Me, Flaherty parents, over 18 years. 18 years ago, we built a house right next to Flaherty School. I am the lady that out there shoveled that 2 inches of snow so we can connect to Flaherty School so the kids can walk to school safely. Tonight, I see a lot of my kids' teachers. Miss Tomer, she was there, my first kids elementary school. My first kids in her grad school right now. I saw my kids' elementary school friends, and they're still friends right now, and we became friends. That's why I'm here to tell you, you probably know what Flaherty is, where it is, but you don't know who we are as a neighbor. So that's why I'm here to tell you. If you're looking at last picture versus this one, is not compatible to our neighbor at all. In 2020, Money Magazine had rated Braintree is one of the top 26 in the country to best place to raise a family. The reason being that we have proximity to the city, we have access to the Blue Hill Reservoir, over I think 6,000 something acre of Greenlands, and the Quincy O Reservoir is one part of the DCR connection to the Blue Hill reservations. Quincy O Reservoir is right in front of where the development is, where they're going to sell 131 Lakeside Drive and 135 Lakeside Drive as this part of the purchase. Quincy Reservoir is being used as the flood control for our neighborhood for the Quincy O block all the way from Blue Hill Reservoir to passing through the town. That's why you see the bridges that you're coming through. That's where the water flow into our town. It's being used as a flood control. And is part of the natural habitat for birds that connect in between Blue Hills and our neighborhoods. That's why doing a traffic hour in the middle of Route 395 to Boston, you still be able to see birds flying on the springtime because there's a connection. We are part of the natural habitat. So this is what the Quincy Reservoir is for today. Not for development of 500 units as the amenity. And this is Flaherty School. We are one of the, probably could be the oldest school that have not been built. We are the first, we only have 1 floor, and Flaherty School is hosted for K to 4th grade. And if you're looking at the number, I don't know if you can read that, we are hosting 84% of the special need kids in town Braintree for grade K1 to 4. Imagine those special need kids. I had a special need kid during time that he's grown up. I'm thankful to all the Braintree teachers, able to help him to grow, able to help him get out that special need. And this is what Braintree is about, our Flaherty School is about. Those kids, special need every day, they need to be walked around the school so that they can go back and learn again. for those special kids. That's the reason the town put them there, because the location, the school, and the specialty that the school has. And other than that, this is a neighborhood school. We got bike ride for the kids. First day back to school, what do? They just call their friend back to the school, and this is why you see 4 of the bike rack, and this is Flaherty School. And if you're looking at the map, how close it is, Flaherty School utilized their open space. We have Halloween party. If you ever come to our Halloween neighborhood party, you can see parents just drinking coffee and kids running down the street. And we even had to have the police come to make sure that people don't run through our street. That's what Flaherty is. And our school utilized the front door for the Halloween party, right there. This is literally just a little bit over 300 feet from the development. And Flaherty School also hosts the South Shore Girls Softball League. Girls around the neighborhoods will pick up the softball gear and walk to the field. Literally, I had 2 girls who plays there, and they literally just walk and once they're done with the game, they just walk with their friends to go back home. That's where the field is, behind Flaherty School, and it's just literally 1 fence away from the South Shore Plaza. It hosts the game all summer, so the summer leagues plays there too, not just during the school years. And with this big 495 unit plus, my main concern as a parent for Flaherty is, will our kids be able to play? What are their privacy? Imagine that, a 5-story overlook down to Flaherty backyard. We always have issue, and Facebook is good. I can look back my moment. To look back that, 2019, we have the big master plan complaint, the rezoning. During that time, I had stand up, told the town that what makes Braintree great is the people that supported us, the neighborhood, the community. That's why I'm still friends with my kids' parents. That's why Miss Toma, I still recognize her. She still live on Common Street. So during that night, I always remember during the planning board, Tim Fox, the Plaza's president, right? Manager. I remember last comment he made to me was, that's my property. If I want to put a house right at your backyard, I have the right to do so. That was the last statement he made publicly during the rezoning meeting in 2019. I just want to reiterate the crime that has been done. Kelly has seen all those articles, but I want to bring out to attention to my closest experience as living in Lakeside Drive. This picture, I took it June 3rd, 2020, right after the guy drove a car with flow of exposure in his truck, ran through the Flaherty fence with trees on it. I always remember that was a Sunday afternoon. I was planting my flower on my backyard, my front yard. Kelly, who's always the North Braintree associate, make sure that everybody's safe during the neighborhood. He drove by, say, is everything okay? I say, yeah, everything seems okay. We didn't hear anything. We did not see anything that I have to worry. After planting all my flower, I cleaning my garage. As I cleaning my garage, 3 high school teenagers came into my garage. I say, Miss, can we take shelter in place in your garage? That was the day that I always remember when the guy ran through the fence of Flaherty. I said, why? He said, there's a car coming. The cops is chasing him. We need to take shelter. So I immediately closed my garage with the 3 high school kids who was just enjoying the day with a friend at the mall. Right after we closed the garage, we heard the police sirens. We heard the car pass by us, and we waited 5 minutes. I was shivering because this never happened to our neighborhood before. Just telling my own experience on, you might think that it's never going to come into our neighborhood, but it's literally, he ran down a tree, he ran down the fence that we had, and then passed right in front of my house. This is a picture that I took on the other day when it snowed. Parents lining up right in front of the school, right in front of my house, picking up the kids. And this is just trying to give you a view of, I don't know, I'm not good at it. It's just driving you a feeling of how the kids are. They like to be there. They like to be picked up. It's really actually a party place for the kids. Right after school, they got to play with their friends, and they got to hang out before their parents picking them up. So, with that to say, now that this building coming, they're taking over our Lakeside Drive, Parker Red, to be the walkway. My husband said, once you give them a cookie, they ask for milk. You know they designed it to be that road to be open, because once we let them build it, they will say, the traffic's no longer work for us. Can we open this road? So they already designed it with the clubhouse gates open to the neighborhood, not just the Rotary anymore. So I'm here tonight, just ask you, even though if you're not from the Flaherty neighborhood, our kids need help. And our kids, we need all your help to tell our town officials that we don't want this development. Give our kids a safe place to enjoy their school with their friends, learn how to bike, play balls with their friends. I know all my kids learn how to bike on Flaherty playground. So, thank you.
Thank you, Justine. You notice a sign here says Lori's Way. If it can happen here, it can happen right in your neighborhood as well. It can happen in the Highlands. What happens on one side of Braintree affects the other side of Braintree. If it's negative there, it's negative here. That's what it is. Steve Sasha is going to talk about his favorite subject, zoning. And what does that mean to you? Steve Sasha.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am going to talk about zoning. This will undoubtedly be the most boring part of the presentation, so if at any point you want me to speed it up a little bit, just give me a sign, and I will. There are a lot of acronyms I'm going to go through, just to make your evening more enjoyable. I just want to start out with basic explanation of our zoning laws. BZB, the Braintree zoning bylaw, governs every single property in town, everybody's home, every commercial property, and there are two basic components to that. There is a use table that's full of Ys, Ns, and SPs that tell you what you can put on your property. So as an example, if you're in a single-family home, the use table would say, one family home, yes, you're allowed to put that on your property. You don't need to go to the planning board to get a special permit. That's your right to build a house there. You could put a church on your property. If you're in Residence B, you could also put a graveyard on your property. So the use table governs everything that every property is allowed. And then there's a dimensional table which says you can put a house on your property, but you can't put it right up against the front sidewalk, right? It has to be set back. It has to be set back from your neighbor's house. Your house cannot cover 100% of your lot. You have to have some open space. These are rules that every single property has to follow. So the South Shore Plaza, what they're proposing is to carve out of their 112-acre property this 9 acres. You can see it in the yellow circle here. And just to orient you, up in the upper right is Flaherty School, and then you have the reservoir down in the lower right, and then the existing mall buildings are up in the upper left. Now notice what this property is now is about 1/3 parking lot, about half tree-covered open space, and then 2 single-family homes. This is the actual use table for what's allowed in highway business zone, which is what makes up the majority of the South Shore Plaza's property. I'm not going to read all of this to you. On the left side that you barely can read at all, that's everything allowed either yes by right or by special permit. The ones on your right side, are the ones that are allowed by right. So you'll see things in here that you would fully expect. In a highway business zone all along Granite Street, you can put in professional offices, you can put in retail space, restaurants, things like that. You can put in marinas, oddly enough, and some other things that you probably wouldn't expect. One of the more important things is one of the rights by special permit is multifamily housing. So the plaza would be allowed to build multifamily housing on this site, but it is limited to somewhere between 60 and 70 total units. So now that I just told you the things that they are allowed to build, I'm going to tell you why they currently have not and cannot actually build anything on that 9-acre parcel. The first is, as I mentioned on the first slide, every property has dimensional requirements. There's only so much building you can actually put on your property. The current South Shore Plaza takes up their maximum building allotment already. So they cannot just build something additional on that 9 acres. In addition, they have some areas where they do not comply with the Braintree zoning bylaw, but they are pre-existing conditions, where it's been that way for a long time, so they're allowed to keep it. But they are not allowed to make those conditions worse. So for them to take out parking spots and open space, they would make those conditions worse. And most importantly, there is a special permit granted by the Braintree Planning Board, which governs the entire 112 acres of the South Shore Plaza's property. It's very complex. There are 135 conditions ranging from parking to traffic to signage, and one of them states very clearly that those conditions apply to the entire 112-acre property, including any piece of it that's sold off. Now, changing the special permit is difficult. You have to go back to the planning board, and it requires 4 out of 5 favorable votes. So it's not, it's not an easy task for them. Okay, and I know there are people in the audience like Liz Page that sit around reading the bylaws all the time, and somebody was going to ask about section 135-702, so let me explain that. Section 702 requires a 100-foot buffer zone between the mall's property and the school and the reservoir, any open space or residential property. They currently are not compliant. If they were, you see this red line in the picture here, everything outside that red line would have to be trees and vegetation, no parking, no buildings. They are currently not compliant. When the plaza applied to reduce their parking requirements in 2021, October or November, the planning board was asked to add to the special permit that at the point that any new construction starts on the plaza, they will make themselves compliant and put this buffer zone where it's supposed to be. The planning board decided not to do that. If they had, we would not be here discussing this project tonight. Just again, so let me go back one. So you see right now, the lot is mostly trees, a little bit of parking lot. The white area is what the project will become. Lot coverage pretty much from one end to the other. The yellow is the existing mall property, and you can see this pink section down in the bottom above the reservoir. That's what Justine was talking about. That is currently a public road, the end of Lakeside Drive, and they have made it part of their project.
I am so sorry. Just a quick little update here. Does anyone have a Toyota Highlander with the license plate 7SJ986? You are blocking somebody and they need to get out. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm sorry. Okay, we might have a taker. Okay, thank you.
But I thought Jen was going to take over the boring part of the presentation, but okay. So this is a picture that, this is a picture that they provided, a concept of what the building will look like. It is 5 stories, but you'll notice it is a fairly tall 5 stories. There's this white outcropping that goes up above what a normal 5-story building would be. So it's fairly tall, and if you're looking at it and thinking, well, that doesn't look that big, keep in mind that what you're looking at is as if you were standing at that little yellow arrow down at the bottom. So the picture you're looking at here is of one leg of one of the 2 buildings, right? So it is a really, really big project. In terms of its size, I put this together to try to compare it to what the neighbors would be seeing. So the neighbors, the first neighbor in right next to Flaherty School, is about 22 feet tall, their structure, and they're elevated at 66 feet. So they're the picture on the left. Then you have Flaherty School, and then you have this Zom Living building. As you can see, it's elevated a little bit above the homes nearby, and it's significantly larger, right? It will tower over those homes. And just to put that in perspective, I looked at the elevation apartment building in Quincy, because you can see that from this whole neighborhood, right? It's way up high. It's quite obvious that it's there. And as you can see, so this building, interestingly enough, is almost the exact same number of units as elevation in Quincy, but in about a third of the amount of space. So much, much more compressed, less open space, but in terms of its height, it's a good bit taller than elevation in Quincy. So it will actually come up to about halfway to where elevation apartment sits. So now that I've told you why they can't build on their property, how are they doing this? Well, they're using a section of the bylaw called PUD, which is Planned Unit Development, and the intent of that bylaw was to provide residential, commercial, and business activities on the same parcel. This clearly doesn't do that, right? And it also doesn't promote permanent preservation of open space. It's actually eliminating 3 acres of open space. It doesn't meet a lot of these intentions of the bylaw, but this section of the bylaw was never finished. It's never been used, and so the requirements are not complete, and the requirements are much less than what was intended. In fact, there's a whole section called density and dimensional requirements, which would limit the amount of units they could put on the property, limit how close they could be to their neighbors, and it's in section 611C, but when you look in the bylaw, section 611C doesn't exist. So if you were a thoughtful elected official trying to create a PUD, you would probably say, hey, we should finish the bylaw first and write section 611C based on resident input of what they want to see there. But since this is being written by the developer themselves, they say, no, there are no dimensional requirements. We don't have to follow any. The RGPUD that they're proposing is supposed to encompass, I don't want to get overly technical on this, but this is an overlay zone. So in addition to everything they're creating here, all the properties of the underlying highway business zone still have to be followed unless something in their new overlay allows them to get out of it, right? And it says right here, all the zoning requirements shall still apply. But here's how they're getting around that. This is an actual picture of the proposed bylaw that they sent to the town council. Now you see this whole list here that says zoning ordinance 135-503I, criteria 601, 603, 604. This is a list of 30 different sections of the bylaw that they have decided will not be applicable to their property. So while a normal highway business zone would be very limited in what they could build, by exempting themselves from 30 sections of the bylaw, there actually is a lot that they can then build. In addition, there is anywhere else in town that you put a large multifamily housing project, you would be required to go to the planning board and get a special permit. This is a list of all the things that the planning board has to determine to be true in order to give you a special permit. And I won't read them all, but it's all the things that are there to protect the neighbors. Setbacks from your neighbors, landscaping, buffer zones, adequate parking, signage, billboards, fuel storage, everything to do with traffic, emergency access. But they are saying that they will not have a special permit process. So this would not apply to them. This got cut off a bit, but this is the PUD says the PUD shall not be granted unless and until a special permit has been issued. So they're actually contradicting the section of the bylaw that they say allows them to do this. And the special permit section of the PUD part of the bylaw is even more specific than the regular special permit. In addition to all the things that I just mentioned, they have to demonstrate that their open space is not just enough, but that it's a high-quality open space, that there's an affordable housing plan, that there's access for pedestrians, all kinds of things that are above and beyond a normal special permit. Again, this would not apply to them. This is more about the special permit process for the PUD. So what they are saying will determine whether or not they can build this project is something called site plan review, SPR. Now, site plan review gives them the right to build by right the housing. The only thing that the planning board would be able to weigh in on is kind of layout and streets and things like that. The planning board would not determine whether the project is approved or not approved. That would be done by right. So if the town council enacts the bylaw that the developer has proposed here, they will be able to build. The planning board will not be able to tell them, we don't like this project, you can't build it. That's important because, for all the things I just told you will not apply to them, there are only 8 things I can find in the bylaw that they've written that are requirements for their property. So one is the height. So there's no height limit, but it would be a maximum of 5 stories. They could not add a 6th. 30% of the lot will be open space. Utility lines will be underground, but they left some wiggle room there. External mechanicals will be screened. Pedestrian paths will be connected to the neighborhood. 1 parking spot per bedroom, and 9.5% to 10% of housing units will be affordable. That's it. So you will notice that it is not a requirement that they have public amenities. Even though they are verbally saying they are going to have that, it is not a requirement of the bylaw they've written. You will notice that it is not a requirement that they have any type of senior or age-restricted housing. They're saying they're going to do that, but they're not required to do it. And I'm going to read this number 8 verbatim because it's important. The last requirement that they said is resident vehicular use may be served by any new and existing driveways, streets, excluding Lakeside Drive, or ways and infrastructure and/or any improvements thereto. Now, resident vehicular use is not all vehicular use, right? That does not include deliveries. That does not include Uber and Lyft. So when they say they will not be using Lakeside, the bylaw that they've written doesn't say that. It says the residents will not use Lakeside Drive. And it's important because when you're considering adopting a law written by the developer themselves, is that an accident or is that on purpose? How do you know that you've caught every little loophole, right? It's a concern, and it's particularly a concern because, as Kelly alluded to, Simon Properties has not been honest in the past with the Braintree residents, with the planning board, with anybody else in town. Just when they had this, and just for reference, Simon Property is a $40 billion company. They had $5.2 billion in revenue last year, and they're sitting on $600 million in cash. If they wanted to invest in the South Shore Plaza, they could. When they applied to have their parking reduced, they talked about, Tim Fox, who's an executive with the company, said, we're looking at lifestyle retail, office and medical use, fitness use, and hotels. Nowhere did he say, we're already looking at putting 500 housing units right up against a school and a residential neighborhood. What he did say, very interestingly, is there are 4 main regional shopping malls in the area. They are North Shore Mall, Burlington Mall, Natick Mall, and South Shore Plaza. Now, Natick is not owned by Simon, the rest are. Keep this in mind. North Shore Mall got a huge investment of funding and infrastructure in 2010, and then again in 2017. Burlington Mall, the second Simon property in the area, also invested in 2010 and then again in 2019. South Shore Plaza had the expansion in 2010, and they have not put another penny into this property since then. So when they say, we need this in order to fix up this mall, do you believe that they're actually going to fix up this mall at this point? Or have they written this property off like they have with others? Something else to keep in mind, and I always forget this as I'm looking through this, of all the things that they don't have to follow through on, one of them is selling this property to Zom Living. They are telling you about this concept of Zom Living building this, and we know there's a purchase and sale agreement, but we have no idea what it says. And in the past, when Simon Properties and Zom Living have tried to work together, they've ended up in a lawsuit, suing each other. So even if the council passes this, Simon Properties owns this. They will be the ones that decide whether to sell it to Zom Living or whatever else they decide to do with it. And again, I just have to question whether Simon is really being honest with the residents about their intentions here. And this is my last slide. I just wanted to put up a couple of quotes because I think they're very, very important. These were from the planning board hearing where Simon asked to have their parking requirements reduced. One was from Melissa Santucci-Razzi, who's the Director of Planning, and told the plaza that utilizing the footprint of the plaza and its infrastructure is preferred over expanding into the open, unused land. South Shore Plaza, as this board is aware, sought a rezone of portions of land that they own that are currently Residence B and open space, and it was very clear that that wasn't something that was going to be supported by the community. So for Simon to then come back at the next turn and say, well, if you didn't like that, here's something twice as big for that same piece of property, what does that say about how they want to deal with Braintree? In her backyard, that's right. And last, final quote, this was the one member of the planning board that voted against giving the plaza their parking requirement reduction, said, the residential community has been the thing that has to be dealt with, and that's been going on for 35 years. I don't think we want to be going and giving this as a piecemeal type of approval. Simon Properties has all the resources to present any expansion, then you as a planning board member have some leverageability. If this is taken away from you, there's not much you can do. We have been giving Simon Properties everything that they've asked for over the past few years, and they have given nothing back. This quote, to me, is the most important thing. If you continue to give Simon Properties everything they're asking for, there will not be anything you can do. Right now, they need something from Braintree. Now's the time to insist on a full plan for the property. Tell us what you're going to do with it, and we'll look at it from end to end, not one parcel here, not one parcel there. Thank you.
Good job, Steve. Thank you very much. That was amazing. I've known Steve for a while. Steve likes to know stuff that you don't, and he proved it here tonight. We have cards. If you have any questions, we're not going to do a question and answer period. If you have a question, put it on a card, hand it to one of the ushers. If you're an usher, raise your hand, please. Okay, round of applause for these awesome ushers. Right over there. So, if you have a question, raise your hand, they'll get you a card. Here's one question. Hold on. I'm not done. I've got business. What leverage do the citizens of Braintree have against our development? You're doing it right now. That's one question. To what extent will the ZBA be involved in this process? None. What is to become of the two houses at the far end of the Lakeside Drive? They've already been purchased by the plaza. Now, I'd like to introduce to you the chairperson of the Master Plan Committee, Jen Wadden.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out. This is impressive. I had my first experience at Town Hall in 2019. I think you all remember this, where the community came out. Show of hands, how many people were here that day? A lot of people, right? So people demanded a master plan. People demanded that high-density housing not happen in Braintree. People demanded smart growth. And from that, we had a master plan committee formed by the mayor, and that's where we're at today. So the master plan in Braintree is a 10-year vision and roadmap for Braintree's future, and the plan should be the foundational policy document for the town. It should be. It should be. So pay attention to that. It should be. And we need to hold our leaders responsible for it should be, right? It should be the guiding decisions about future growth, preservation, and change. We're about 2/3 of the way done on the master plan. We expect this to be finished, I think it's in the fall. So we're getting there, but we've completed different segments of this. We had a phenomenal result. We were able to do 211 meeting in the boxes, and you're like, what is that? We had all different people come from the senior center. We were able to talk to them, find out what they're looking for. We had 2,300 community input points of participation. So all of you probably, how many of you completed the survey? Anyone complete? Yeah, love that. So we had 1,741 people complete the survey. And that's our largest data point. That's how we know what we're thinking, what the residents are thinking. So We also gave you the opportunity to elaborate on comments, right? So I can tell you that as the chair, I read every single comment that was made in that survey. It was a long process, but I read everything. And I will say that I've seen on Facebook this comment, it's only 1,741, and I say to myself, that person missed statistics class. They must have slept through statistics class, because if you pull up just a standard calculator for statistics, I can't even say the word, 1,741 responses is actually a 99% statistical certainty that the will of the residents is reflected. So we knew what the majority of the residents wanted. And I also want to tell you that it's you people that paid for the master plan. So you paid $200,000 of your taxpayer dollars, and your opinion should be heard. It should be heard by our town leaders. It should not be ignored. As I mentioned, I read through every comment. I really did. Like, I was up late nights. I travel a lot for work, and I read everything. And in the housing section alone, there were 580 comments, but of the comments, 400 of them expressed concerns about the town overdevelopment. They expressed concerns about high-density housing. No more building. The town has grown too much. Development should cease. So we've already saturated the market. These were all the comments that were made, and we need to listen to them and respect the comments. So what do people of Braintree want? So this is what you said in the survey. This is what you want. Service-enriched housing is the first one. So nursing homes, assisted livings, like a Grove type place. The number one really strongly supported was single-family homes. We all like our single-family homes. We all like our single-family neighborhoods. How many of you live in a single-family neighborhood? Yeah. So that was very strongly supported. Age-restricted housing was number 3, accessible housing number 4, and smaller, more affordable homes and developments was number 5. What did the town not want? It was so clear, it was like blatantly clear. The town said no multifamily complexes with amenities. But where are we right now? Like, talking about a multi-fit, right? So the town said no, the residents said no. It was very clear, and here we are. I just want to say that, like, here we are. So, you know, sometimes I scratch my head. I don't know. Are we being heard? So the master plan vision statement is complete, and you can find this online. So I'm not speaking on behalf of the master plan committee, just an FYI. I'm just speaking on behalf of a resident of the Flaherty district, but I happen to be the chair of the master plan committee. So the first statement in the vision statement, and this is the vision statement that's meant to support you all, is in 2033, because it's a 10-year plan, Braintree will be a well-run, picturesque, welcoming, family-centered suburban community that prioritizes and protects its residential neighborhoods. If we do this to a neighborhood in one area of town, we can do it anywhere. If we pass laws that say your neighborhood doesn't count, we can do it anywhere. And this vision statement was meant to protect all neighborhoods. There are 5 core themes of the community vision. I'm not going to get into all of them. You can read them online, but I want to dig a little deeper into 2 of them. Number 2, pursue strategic economic development that is respectful of the surrounding land uses, promotes local business, repurposes developed sites that are blighted and underutilized, supports vibrant commercial squares, protects existing neighborhoods. That is what we all want. We all want our neighborhoods to be protected, and that's what the Flaherty district deserves. Number 4, enhance community vitality with careful and strategic growth policies that preserve, protect, and improve existing residential neighborhoods. Plan and supply a diverse range of compatibly scaled and well-designed housing options that harmonize with the context of the neighborhood. This is all in the vision statement of the plan. It can be found online, and this is what the town's marching orders are for the next 10 years. So this is my opinion. Is this project in harmony with the master plan vision statement? It's absolutely not in harmony with the master plan vision statement. It does not protect It does not enhance the neighborhood. It does not harmonize with the neighborhood. It certainly doesn't support the survey data with what the community wants and that they don't want high-density housing. And my last point is town officials should support what the community wants, and they represent you. So I would suggest that you write your town councilor and give them an idea of what you're looking for and what you want, because community involvement is the key, and we need to be heard. We need to be heard. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly.
So we've heard a lot here tonight. Just a few closing thoughts. Number one, if you want one of those fun little, really exciting and sexy applications for the North Braintree Civic Association, there you go. They're in the back. We also have the letters that are in the back. If you happen to have had a question, we haven't had any brought forward. I'm assuming we've answered most of them, but I'd like to say you guys are kind of awesome. You're here because you want to protect your neighborhood and Braintree, and that really does matter. So what I'd like to do is have you guys give yourselves a round of applause. So I've also been asked to mention the next step in this entire process. In other words, what can you do? Show up to meetings. I know it's not the most exciting thing in your life, but husbands, if you want to call it a date, please do so. Bring your wife. Go up to a planning board meeting. It's pretty exciting out there, let me tell you.
There are some questions,
Okay.
but we might have answered most of them. For people that have submitted questions, I think we should probably run through them.
Well, let me finish. Can I finish my thoughts? Isn't she amazing? She's just an amazing woman. So, February 15th, planning board meeting. Show up to that. That's where the planning board doesn't hear this. They render an opinion and send it along to then the town council. In this case, because it's a zoning issue, town council votes on a thumbs up or thumbs down. But it relies heavily on the opinion of the planning board. And so do we. So show up to the planning board February 15th. Husbands, you can call that a Valentine's Day date. I don't know. It is the day after my birthday, just so all you all know that. What's been given by the town to Simon Enterprise in support of its business operations? They're still there. They've been able to grow. They've had multiple options to grow. And oh, by the way, please show up. Fire shows up. You have a police station right down there. How can this happen without a new master plan? Exactly. Has the impact on the wetlands and the wildlife around the Braintree Dam been assessed with the Migratory Bird Act? So the reason why we focused on the migratory birds, I'm like, really? That matters? Why are we talking about it here? Because it matters. Because guess what? They go right across from Blue Hills across the Braintree, the Quincy Dam. Great job on the bylaw coverage. Nice job, Stephen. At all costs, be cautious to not become like the ugly town just to the north with all the towers, exactly, or a certain Route 18. Been on Route 18 lately? Exactly. Will this be a referendum regarding the plan? How can our voices be heard? You're doing it right now. Write letters. Can't read that one. How can residents effectively defeat this powerful land grabber? You're doing it. Show up. February 15th. How did it get this far? Ask your planning board and representatives. All right. So thank you very much. A couple of things. North Braintree Civic, this is really important because we've been accused of being NIMBYs. We've been accused of being anti-development. We've been accused of those types of things. That cannot be farther from the truth. We want Braintree to grow. We want Braintree to prosper. You want Braintree to grow. You want Braintree to prosper. It just needs to be appropriate, doesn't it? So, with that, I greatly appreciate you coming out. We're not going to take answers or questions from the audience right now, I'm sorry. But we have to close this down because you guys have been very, very, very patient. Thank you very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. Have a great night.